as a child, my experiences of London were not pleasant. I was at university working 40 hours a week, and I had friends there who were having parents send money to them, and I was sending money home. And I'm like, this doesn't seem right. I was not used to doing anything for myself. So I had a failed suicide attempt. There was always this sense of you're the older sister, you have to be an example for your siblings. If I can do my part to break this generational pattern or whatever it is so that they can also enjoy life, then that's what I'm committed to doing.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our episode today. I have the pleasure of having Adaku with me, Adaku Mbagwu. So, Adaku is a firstborn daughter specialist. If you know, you know. So, it's a conversation that is much needed, especially in African and Caribbean and also Hispanic household in general. And I've seen this also in Asian households as well as a conversation that is much needed because spoken and unspoken responsibilities are crippling to most. And because of the role of duty to family, most women don't think or talk about this until they're basically falling apart at the seams. So this is that conversation. So if you're a firstborn daughter, you know a firstborn daughter, your friends with a firstborn daughter, like the whole gamut. So this is a conversation that you will really want to be a part of. So Daku, it is a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you. I'm very grateful for making this time to have this conversation. So we met early in the week. Actually, we met early in the week, and got so excited about having this conversation. So please, if you don't mind, let us know how this journey started for you. What is your story? And why you're doing this, because it would be so much easier to do so many different things. But here you are telling your story and helping other people tell their stories as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I was born in Nigeria into a really wealthy family, lots of family involvement, always around lots of people. And then when I was 6 years old, I moved to Nigeria. So I reconnected with my dad when I was 25, and he explained that he didn't grow up with an education. He was a village boy that became a millionaire. So his biggest fear as his businesses were experiencing some turbulence was that if he lost everything, he wouldn't be able to give his children an education. Because my mum was born in the UK, he knew that we would have access to free education. So that was his reason as to why we moved there. But my mum went from being a kept woman and having a lot of people around her, family, drivers, maids, all the things, to being alone in a new country with no family, 3 kids, and pregnant with her fourth. So I can only imagine how difficult it was for her. But as a child, my experiences of London were not pleasant. We really struggled. She was a supply teacher, so sometimes she had work, sometimes she didn't. And when she didn't, she supplemented on credit cards, which eventually obviously caught up on her. So a lot of my childhood experiences were bailiffs kicking down the door to try and get the money that she owed and taking our furniture. So we lived in an apartment, but there was no furniture in the house, and we would go like months without any gas and electricity. And if anyone knows London, it's grey, rainy, and cold. So we would have to wear our outdoor jackets inside and do our homework around candlelight because we didn't have any electricity. So it was really, really tough, especially being able to witness the contrast of friends who had ample food in their cupboards, and we would go 3, 4, 5 days sometimes without food, and she would kind of lean on the kindness of shopkeepers that would let her take things on credit. So quite quickly, there was always this sense of you're the older sister, you have to be an example for your siblings. But there was also a personal kind of obligation that I felt to being able to do something about our living circumstances. So quite early on, my brain was kind of warped into thinking of what can I do to help my family. And I would braid my sister's friends' hairs and get paid £5 or £10, and would come home and put down the electricity or buy eggs and milk and bread and share it with my siblings and my mom. Or I would babysit kids older than me. So I've been working for as long as I can remember. And when I was officially legal to work, I got a job and have kind of just continued working and primarily using all of my money to take care of everyone else. And things started to turn in terms of my dynamic with my mum when I went to university, because I was at university working 40 hours a week, and I had friends there who were having parents send money to them and I was sending money home. And I'm like, this doesn't seem right. And I think as a child, I used to think, well, it's not my mum's fault that these circumstances are hard. But then as I started to grow and say, how can I take care of my bills and still have money to send to you? So I started questioning her on how she was spending the money. She didn't like that. So then we would get into arguments, and our relationship started to really get tense and fall downhill after that because I kept questioning her. But of course, I kept helping because I felt like I needed to, and I was doing it for my siblings. And then I got engaged to a childhood friend. We've known each other since the age of 14. We started dating at 18. We got engaged. I graduated, got into the corporate world. Because of my ambition to provide for my family, I fast tracked really quickly. I was earning six figures by the first year of my role by 22. I paid for our wedding that we were planning. So I was taking care of our household, me and my fiance's financially. He was contributing, but I was a breadwinner, and I was also taking care of my mum's household. So it just felt like a lot of pressure. I was working 12 to 15 hours a day every single day. And then on the weekends, I was helping my mum raise my siblings, and all of that pressure, as well as realizing 4 months before getting married that it probably wasn't the right relationship for me, and canceling my wedding, and then getting an ultimatum at the startup I was working at as a partner to either keep my opinions to myself or leave. And then having to move in with my mom, who I wasn't getting along with, as well as feeling all this pressure that everyone just keeps taking and taking. No matter how much I said I was struggling, it almost felt like it doesn't matter. So I fell into a depression, and that was really difficult for me too, because I identified as the strong one that held everything together, and I couldn't even hold myself together. So I was really resisting the fact that I was depressed. I thought it was for people that were lazy and weak and had time, and it really humbled me. And because I couldn't figure out how to fix it, I was like, oh, I don't want to live like this. So I'm just going to take my life. So I had a failed suicide attempt. My sister caught me at 2 a.m. in the morning after taking an overdose, and I was rushed to hospital, and my stomach was pumped, and I had this angry conversation with God, like, why are you interrupting me? I want to go. If I'm not going to go, help me figure this thing out so that I never experience this again. And shortly after, probably a week or two after, I met my first coach. And that's when I started doing the work. And we worked together 3 to 5 hours a day for 3 months straight. It was like a full-time job, just kind of trying to figure out what's going on in my head. And one of the blessings that I did get from my mom is that she introduced me to meditation at a really young age. So I had a spiritual understanding and practice, but getting the coaching was able to show me how my brain was functioning and having me show up in these ways that I thought I had to be. And that was creating these pressures. So as I started working with a coach, I started realizing, oh wow, when this happened as a child, I made this belief and this decision, and this is why I feel this way, and this is why I'm that way. And as I was able to see it, I was like, okay, I need to put myself in a space where I can actually do the work. So I didn't want to live with my mom because we were fighting. So I moved into my car. So I slept in my car for about 2 weeks, went to the council and begged them to give me a place. I showed them proof that I had committed suicide. I told them that I didn't have anyone. I probably could have leaned on someone, but I'm not used to receiving because that hasn't been my role. So I didn't know how to ask. And eventually I was given a house in place. It was completely bare. The walls were horrible, floors were coming up, but it was my space. And a friend of mine bought me a bed, and that's where I did everything there. I ate there, I worked there, I started my business there, I worked with my coach, and brick by brick, I rebuilt myself. I had to cut myself out off of my family for about a year and 3 months, and I started to take responsibility in terms of how I was contributing to that dynamic. And then within 4 years, I had grown a seven-figure company. I had restored my relationships with my family. I had forgiven my mom. A lot shifted as I was doing this work. But then it got to the 4 year point in my business, and I was like, I really don't care about it. Like everyone's like, you've got this successful business, you should be so excited. I'm like, but I'm not. And I realized that I only got into recruitment because it was the fastest way I can make money to give to my family. There was no me in it. Like, what did I want to do or what was I passionate about? And as my siblings were graduating and getting their own jobs, the pressure was reducing and my why was dying. So I was not used to doing anything for myself. So it's like, okay, they don't need as much. And now I'm seeing that I don't really like this line of work. So I went to India at 30 years old and did a little bit of self reflecting and was like, okay, I want to figure out who I am and what I like to do and what my purpose is. So I came back and I shut the business down. Everyone thought I lost my mind. I was like, maybe, maybe not. And that's when my journey started. I started traveling. I went to these personal development retreats. I met these entrepreneurs that were doing work. I saw that people were being purposeful and making money, which I didn't think was possible. I thought you had to work your ass off till you die and make money and then you can give back. And I saw people that were doing it at the same time, which then shifted my view. And I was like, okay, I can find something I enjoy that I can make money in. And then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, I didn't want to be locked down in London. And I had a friend that was in Mexico. I was like, I'm just going to go to Mexico. Came to Mexico, no plan, thinking I was just going to be here for a month and COVID would stop. And when I saw like 3 days in, I was like, I don't think I'm going back to London. Did not go down well with my family. You're not allowed to leave us. I'm like, you're married with children. I didn't understand how significant that move would be in me kind of letting go some of the last remnants of codependency. We still have a bit of codependency. We're still close. But this was the first time I fully got to focus on me. I could help them through the phone, but I wasn't there physically. So it's like, oh, what do I want to do with my time and where do I want to go? And I think for the last 5 years, that's when my healing started to happen. And I realized that I had a gift for coaching and I started working with everyone. And then I saw that females were thriving with my work. So I niched on female entrepreneurs and executives. And then two of my clients asked for coaching with their firstborn daughter. And then I was like, hold on, the things that you're doing subconsciously are the things that you were upset with your mom for doing, and they hated that they were recreating the same thing. And I was like, hold on, I'm a firstborn daughter. This is their firstborn daughters. It's the same thing that they had with their mums. And that's when I saw there was a pattern. And that's kind of how I was like, okay, well, if it's anything to do with me, I've done so much work to break a lot of these patterns and I'm still doing that work. I was just crying on the phone with my sister an hour ago and she's said to me, like, I feel like I'm really understanding you now. And I'm like, yeah, because I don't think you've heard me before. It's making me upset now. So I just feel like Firstborn daughters are really special human beings. And if I can do my part to break this generational pattern or whatever it is so that they can also enjoy life, then that's what I'm committed to doing.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. So many things to talk about, so many questions. Something that you just said in talking to your sister, I don't mean to make you emotional or anything, is that realization that you saw me or you didn't hear me.
Mhm.
When you realize, because it takes a lot of work, I'm kind of sort of on the same journey. I'm not a firstborn daughter, I'm a last daughter.
Mhm.
However, we had this conversation.
Mhm.
How hurtful was that realization that people around you seemingly profess to hear you, but they don't hear you? How hard was that?
I don't know whether it was like a moment of realization. I think it was a realization for her because she thought we're very close. So she thought that she was like really supportive and she was always there for me. But she had her issues with me because I acted as her mom. So as humans, we all have traumas, right? No matter how someone shows up, you could have a mom who is very avoidant of love and it traumas someone, and a mom that's overbearing because they're so loving and it traumatizes someone. So a lot of her triggers come from the way that I parented her. And when she would communicate that to me as adults, she was in pain. So she's like, oh, well, you were really strict and you were really judgmental. And I would say, I acknowledge that and I'm sorry. And I was 13, but she couldn't hear that part.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, so no, we can go there because I think it's important for people
Yes.
who are in. I did another podcast and she's also a lost born and she said, I love my sister so much, but I don't know how to show her. And she was like, can you tell me how I can show her? The more I speak about it, the more I see how the dynamics and the specificity of the dynamics are unique, but the general patterns and themes are the same. It's like cookie cutter. Whenever I speak to a firstborn and I just kind of say, the like general characteristics. They're like, oh my gosh, because they feel so alone because no one sees them. And so it's like they're there, they're surrounded by people, but they feel invisible because they feel like their role has conditioned them to just give. And no one checks in terms of like, are you okay? What do you need? You get it together.
Yeah, I think you and I kind of like talked about that a little bit earlier in the week. There's this general outlook that lastborns are usually spoiled, so the parents give up and they usually have more leeway to do certain things. They have more freedom. And I told you this, but the side that everybody's not seeing is that especially when you have older siblings who are significantly older than you or who have a sense of responsibility of parenting you because they feel either responsible for your actions or responsible for you financially or just responsible just because they're older, especially in the Nigerian or African culture. That parenting, although the parents may be busy with other things, worrying about the fees for the university, buying handouts or whatever for the older kids. Like me, if you had 6 older siblings, you have 6 extra parents. And that pressure is enormous,
Mhm.
right? That nitpicking is enormous. Fault finding and all of those things, right? That's something that some people don't see. And little things get blown out of proportion, or things that don't even exist are manufactured and blown out of proportion. So it is such an interesting dynamic to have sisters talk on that level. It takes work at the end of the day. So kudos to both of you because it takes work and it takes somebody being in a place to receive that conversation, to have that conversation. You could have been very boneheaded, say, well, too bad, get over it. And she could have been in a place of calling you uptight and you'll never change or whatever the case. And that would have further fractured the relationship. People don't see the part they play in it.
I don't want it to seem like we just arrived at this place. We've had the screaming matches, the crying, the breaking down, not being heard on both
Right.
sides. But yeah, our commitment to work on the relationship has got us to the point where we can actually create space and hear each other and apologize.
Absolutely. That's the work. It has to happen. Healing is not pretty.
Mm-mm.
So we've talked about it before here. Healing is not pretty. Whatever you have in mind, holding hands, humming,
I,
that's not heal. Well, it could be for you. Don't listen to me. But the real healing is not pretty. It takes a lot of breakdowns and putting it back together. So going back to the conversation, you talked about you had with God when your stomach was pumped, you were brought back on the side of existence. And somebody listening might say, well, be grateful somebody found you. And the mindset usually is not wanting, when somebody makes that decision, is not wanting to be found, is not wanting to be helped. Can you please just talk about that a little bit? Because we still live in a society that stigmatizes people getting to that point of making that decision to end it all.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I didn't understand depression until I experienced it. So when someone hasn't experienced it, it's like I get sad sometimes too. It's not sadness. It's not sad. It's literally a chemical imbalance. And it was actually a CEO of mine that I was working before I joined the startup that told me that I was depressed because I wasn't sleeping for a very long time. And the lack of sleep plus the stress just tipped me over. So I would go into work and I'd be working and out of nowhere I'd start crying. I didn't want anyone to see me. So I had to keep running to the bathroom, try to get myself together, go back in. But eventually they could see I'm disheveled. Like my eyes were red and they're swollen. So he took me to lunch and he said, what's wrong? And that's the first time that someone's actually like truly checked in on me. And I just let it all out. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. This is uncontrollable. It's all coming out. And he said, I think you're depressed. And I was defiant. I'm not depressed. I'm not weak. I'm not. And he said, listen, it's not a weakness. It's like if you break your leg, you need to address it and heal it and give it time to heal. In the same way, he was like, if he wasn't vulnerable, I think it would have been harder to accept. But he said, I've been depressed too, and it's needs healing. So I'm going to give you 2 months off, completely paid. I'm not going to cancel your contract. I'm gonna purchase 3 therapy CBD therapy sessions for you. So he was amazing. And when I tried to describe depression, I say, like, if you imagine like an orange fruit, it's so bright, it's so vivacious, it has like citrusy smells. And imagine if it kind of gets split and it drops on the floor. Ants are going to smell the sugar, they're going to come around it, and they're going to be crawling all over it. So when you look at that orange again, it doesn't look like the same orange you were holding. It just looks like this black mass of creepy crawlies. And that's what depression is like. It's like you're in there and it's like, I don't identify as this broken person. I know what I'm capable of. I know how I was showing up for everyone. But there's this heavy cloak over me and I can't figure out how to lift it in the same way that orange doesn't have hands to brush off the ants. It just has to stay there. So it just felt like I was just walking with this cloak and I couldn't figure out how to take it off. And the more days that went on, the more I thought, I can't live the rest of my life like this because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So then I think, okay, well, I've got to go. It's so interesting because up until this point, I felt everyone was just taken from me. And then I made the decision, I don't want to live like this. I want to go. And then I get found at 2 o'clock in the morning. I intentionally took the medication, took 8 pills, hoping I would pass. And I was starting to feel myself fade. And I was like, okay, finally, I'll get freedom from this pain. And then my sister randomly comes back from university at 2 a.m. in the morning. She was at Brunel University. It's like a 2 or 3 hour drive. Came into my room. We weren't on good terms. This is another sister. And she shook me to wake me and she could hear the rustling of pills. And she was like, what's that sound? So she lifted the quilt. And I'm like, this would have never happened. These circumstances are not supposed to happen. She wouldn't have come home at that time. She wouldn't have come into my room knowing we're not talking. She's pushing me to wake me up at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I'm like in this state, annoyed. Like, why can't I ever have what I want? So it's like, it's not logical, right? So it's like she's here, she's interrupting me. This is what I want to do. And I always have to sacrifice what I want to do because it's not on everyone else's plan. So she called my brother. My brother drives with his friend from wherever he is. He comes into the room. We've been waiting for the ambulance. I could hear them for like 40 minutes. The ambulance hadn't come. So he's trying to carry me. And I'm like, why won't you leave me alone? You guys are so selfish. I want to go. Leave me alone. And then he was like, you're the selfish one. And then he was like, F this. And he walked away. And I think like immediately he was like, no, I don't care what she says. He came back and he literally had to carry me, put me in the car, carry me out, carry me into the ambulance, into the medical rooms. The thought that nothing that is happening in terms of thought processes when you're in that state is logical and reasonable. Like I wasn't thinking about the impacts on my family when I go because I didn't want to be in pain. It was too much.
So when we talk about divine intervention,
Yeah.
that's divine intervention. I mean, the work that you're doing now, you're so needed. Going back to names, your name is Adaku, Adama, Adeze, Ada. Can you please talk about the naming convention that has taken over? We can't run from it, and it's what we have, and we value it. I want to please have you talk about the name, and I don't want to call it a burden, but more of a responsibility the naming convention carry, especially in our culture, Nigerian culture, and African culture as a whole.
Yeah, so for the Igbo tribe, because I realize it's not the same with other tribes, every firstborn daughter is given the name Ada, and then they have something added to it, like the examples that you've given. And Ada means the firstborn daughter. And the firstborn daughter in Igbo culture is seen as the second mom. So I remember growing up and like my uncles will be like the mama of the house. Everyone sees it as jokes and they don't realize the impact of that level of responsibility. I remember even after I had my suicide attempt, I called my grandma and I was trying to explain to her like why I had got to that state. And she kept quiet. And then once I was finished, she was like, my daughter, maybe God put you in your mom's life to help her. I am telling you that the help has driven me to the point of wanting not to be here. But the culture of like, this is your role, is just so pervasive that it's like, get over it. Like, they don't say get over it. They say, just pray,
Yeah, right.
just pray. I'm like, I'm having conversations with God. I'm shouting at God. I'm doing all the things. It's not working. And again, this is another thing. I think it's Black culture in general, but I think it's starting to change. The whole mental health conversation is not a thing. It's so interesting. I have a really close relationship with my dad since we've reconnected. And we were speaking a couple of weeks ago. And he said something and it triggered some emotion. So he could hear that I was about to cry. And he was like, "Oh, no worries, don't worry, we can change." And I was like, "Hold on. Usually when you do this, I kind of like push my emotions down and I move forward, but I want to have this conversation." So I said to him, "What is it that makes all of my Nigerian relatives run away from crying? So fearful about crying?" And he said, "Well, I have never thought about it, but now that I think about it, we only cry for two reasons. We cry when we're very happy and we cry when we're in a lot of pain. So when I hear you crying, I know that you're experiencing pain and I want the pain to stop for you. So that's why I want to stop it." And I said, "This is interesting because in stopping it, it pushes it down and it has to come out. So it's like if it doesn't come out, it shows up in mental health, it shows up in physical illness." My mom died at 52 because she had high blood pressure that caused her to have a whole kidney failure, 9 heart attacks before she died, a whole bunch of stuff. And 2 years before she died, I said to her, "I don't know anything about your life." She was a firstborn daughter too. And I said, "I feel like maybe your blood has this pressure because it wants you to release something." And she said, "Don't go there. I'm scared that if I start, I will cry and I won't stop crying." And I said, "But I think that that's what you need." And then 2 weeks before she died, she said, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to do the work." So I think this culture, we don't realize how it impacts us. It doesn't make us stronger. It's like, I think there's more strength in going to those vulnerable places where it's painful. It's painful to connect to your pain and to experience the crying and to let it out. But it's so relieving on the other side. And the only way out is through. And my mom wasn't brave enough, unfortunately, to go there. So luckily, I'm trying to break that cycle. I just had surgery. I had fibroids and I had to have a hysterectomy. And I know that that is linked to some of these patterns that I've created. So I'm not going out like my mom. So it's like I'm gonna do the work. Which is why I'll cry on a podcast now. If you had caught me back then, there's no way. I gotta keep this persona of being strong and having it all together and not be weak and cry. It's like, no, this bit's there and it wants to come out. It's got to come out.
My goodness, thank you for sharing that. You said something about not being strong enough. We're not taught that crying is a strength. We're taught that crying is weakness. I think it was in Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe's book. We read it in secondary school, and there was a scenario presented of boys going up for their circumcision, and the strongest boys were the boys that did not cry. The circumcision was done when a boy was of age, between 8 and 11, I think. Imagine a boy that was so conscious of their bodies being circumcised. I mean, we're tearing into a very sensitive skin. And the expectation is do not shed a tear because it makes you a stronger person. Bought into that narrative so much that we don't realize that we're trapping all these negative energies in our bodies. And if we're not expelling these energies, they're going to manifest
Yeah.
in one way or the other. So it's incredible that you said that about fibroids because people don't understand that a lot of gynecological and reproductive health disorders are linked to trauma.
Mhm.
So we're talking about the PCOSs of the world. We're talking about endometriosis, which has now been classified as a form of cancer because again, the way it grows. Fibroids is another one. So there's this false mentality of being a heroine or hero. Don't cry because it makes you weak.
Mhm.
We bought into that. And your father's very right. You know, you either cry, and we're very emotional people, Africans, we're very expressive, I should say. But the crying thing is either you're super happy or you're hurt. Somebody died or you're sick or whatever. And having these kinds of conversation unapologetically is what's going to get us to healing, really. So the work that you do, I want you to please talk about how did this whole start? Where are you right now and what are you doing in the future? Yes, most of the impactful things that we do in life starts out as
Same. Yeah, our pain becomes our purpose. I actually have a mental process that I've created, and it's called the purpose process. And usually the trauma that we experience and the love we wish we received is the gift of the love, the way that we love others. So people that didn't feel like they belong, they become extremely gifted at making others feel a sense of belonging because they so acutely know what they wish they had that they just naturally give it. But the extent to which we can be an expression of those gifts is limited by the extent to which our trauma is still controlling us. So the work is to unravel the layers of that trauma so that not only can we feel more peace in ourselves and attract more abundance, but we can be a bigger expression of the gifts that we have in the world. In terms of what I do, when I was working with a coach, um, I think just the way that my brain works, in the coaching sessions, I would track the questions he was asking me, and I could see that he was trying to get me to a root of something. So when I wasn't with him and something would trigger me, I'd be like, why am I really triggered? What's going on here? What am I creating? And I was always able to get into, so for example, I noticed I had this yo yo pattern with money. I would make a lot of money and then I would go broke, and then I'd make a lot of money and I'd go broke. So I'd ask myself, okay, I can see this as a pattern. I'm creating it. So what is it that I'm creating? Why do I create this? And what I was able to identify is that when I had a lot of money, everyone needed everything and I did everything for everyone. So it always felt like I was working so hard and then giving it all away. So I was always depleted. And then because I didn't know how to say no, I would go broke to have a break. And it was like, oh, okay, when people come to me and say, can you help? I could be like, this and this happened. I genuinely can't help. So that was my way of just like resting. And I was like, I don't want to have to do that to rest. But until I could see it, I couldn't change it. So by being able to kind of really analyze the intention and motivation behind every single thing I was doing, I could see how I was creating relational dynamics. I can see how I was affecting my finances. And that's what allowed me to grow my business so quickly because I could see how I was being the bottleneck or how my mindset or my belief was limiting me. And then I got to work on the belief and step into the opposite. And as soon as I did, everything opened up. So, with that, in my coaching, I basically help women get to the root of how they are manifesting all of the things they are manifesting in their lives. And I give them the tools to learn how to become their own coach so that they can start one trigger, one moment at a time, breaking those patterns to achieve exponential results in their parenting, in their marriages or relationships, in their friendships, in their businesses and careers. And I've launched this year a community called the Healed Hero Community. Not hero that you were talking about in terms of we can't cry. All of them are crying. Every single one of them are crying. And it's just focused on bringing firstborn daughters to do this work collectively because they're all going through the same thing. And there's something powerful. I think my coaching is really confronting and uncomfortable. So sometimes when my clients are in the hot seat, they're trying to self-preserve so much that sometimes they can't really take the coaching, but everyone observing can take it way more. And maybe in hindsight, they can let things integrate. So I just think that there's something magical that happens when you bring a bunch of givers together in a community that are all kind of depleted of receiving. That in itself is healing. Them feeling individually in their own lives that they're alone in what they're going through, and then having that community to see that they're not alone, and then being able to do the work to truly from the root heal these patterns that they have taken on and take the good things that have come from it, because there are a lot of good things that firstborn daughters can attest to. They're very reliable, they're A-type personalities, they have a high standards of perfectionism, they're very loyal. All of those things are beautiful traits. It's just how can we make sure that we're giving them from a place of love and expansion rather than from scarcity and depletion. And so, yeah, the community just really helps these women do this. A lot of them are very ambitious. So, a lot of the time they use the business as the vehicle because they want to grow their business or they want to make more money and grow their career, which is fine. But you need to fundamentally change to become that person. So the first one of my clients that I use as a case study, she came to me, she was like, my life's fine. I've got no issues. I'm married, two children. I'm good. I just like, I've had my business for 9 years. It's just plateaued at 160K. And some of the things we were able to identify is that she had been molested by a family member when she was young, and her husband in 25 years didn't even know that. So there was none of her friends knew that. It was like her little secret. And I'm like, you got to go tell all of them. She was like, what's this got to do with my business? I said, trust me, or you don't trust me. You're not owning your full self. So there's no way you're going to be in your business showing up as your full self. So let's work on accepting yourself fully and being your authentic self. So she had to go on this mission of telling everyone. And so she was doing things like this, like with every root belief that we uncovered. And within 8 months, she took her business from 160K to 800K in revenue. It's now over 1 million. Up until this point, she was doing another business course and a finance course. And if you can't see the unconscious ways you're limiting the blessings that are available to you, you can do all of the things and you're only going to be taking micro steps. So when you truly get out of the way to just let all of the abundance in, it flows in ways that just blow your mind. So that's the work I'm doing with Firstborn Daughters.
It's a scary journey, scary, scary stuff. I think the fear of being that exposed is what keeps a lot of people locked in. And molestation is it's not easy. I've self-disclosed. It's something that I've experienced, and dealing with that pain is just a different kind of anger and a different kind of block. Especially when you get to a place where you're struggling and it's been a secret because of the fear of being believed,
Hmm.
which is something in our culture that is very disgusting, where an innocent child or the innocent person gets blamed. So that is heavy stuff.
Yes, healing is heavy. Just like you said, it's not easy. It's pain. The experience created pain, so it's going to require facing pain to get relief. Although there's no roundabout, there's no, can I just say positive affirmations to get there? No, your brain is designed to keep you safe. And it's been populated with all of these painful experiences. So it's constantly anticipating and projecting and finding evidence of reasons why you shouldn't take that action. You shouldn't have this conversation. So you've got to go into the pain to bring it into the now to say, okay, it's not real now. And what do I need to parent myself or to love myself the way that I wasn't loved when that happened? And that's the only way it can heal. There's no other way but to look at it.
Yeah, I've learned that it is a journey. It never ends. It is a journey, and it's like a journey that has phases.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. Working with firstborn daughters, they're like, what's the goal? What's the
Mhm.
outcome? When do I arrive? And I'm like, when you're dead? I don't know.
Exactly.
It's like you're going to expand at the new level of expansion. You're going to attract all these new things that are going to trigger you. You don't know. You have to rediscover yourself. So then you have to work on getting comfortable at this stage. And then life and God says, okay, you're ready for the next level of expansion. So just enjoy the ride. Well, it's not enjoyable. Accept the ride. It's the outcomes are enjoyable and really celebrate them when they're there instead of thinking about the next thing. I think my client, a long time, I've improved a lot. I wasn't as compassionate as I am now. I was very direct. And one of my clients said to me, working with you is like walking to the edge of a cliff and then you kicking me in my back and saying, don't worry, you'll be okay. And I'm like, that sounds horrible. She was like, yeah, but I'm always okay. But now it's not as intense, but you need to be courageous to truly take that.
Yeah, I still have a lot to learn. I'm still kind of like building my village and my community because it's something that we women need. We women need that so much. And I'm finding people that pour back into me because, like you said, as a giver, just as you were made a giver, people were made takers, right? They'll always be takers as long as you're giving. So I'm in a position where alignment in a way that is mutual is very important for me because I don't want to get to a place where I feel like I'm depleted and I regress. Because like you said, this journey is not pleasant. I've come to a place of acceptance of the journey. And I'm grateful. The gratitude for where I am is enormous. And I'm learning. Those lessons, like your client said, edge of a cliff, kick in the back, those lessons show up that way sometimes. I had a conversation with one of my friends. I think I mentioned her to you, Adeze. And Adeze said, once that mindset clicks to this is happening to me, as opposed to this is happening here and now, and I
Oh,
just happen to be part of that story, it changes a lot.
mm,
The woe is me mentality is like, okay, this has happened. How do I pivot? What do I do with this? What is the lesson in all of this? So getting to that point has not been easy. However, it has been very essential in my growth. I'm
Uh-huh.
still growing. I'll continue to grow. It's not a finite semester. Okay, after this, you get your graduation, you get your degree. The degree is whatever you learn in that scenario. So it's been a very interesting journey. So where can we find you, Adaku? If somebody's listening to us, you're like, okay, I'm a first-born daughter, or I'm a middle daughter, I'm a last daughter that has had to take on all this responsibility. And I kind of like need that community. I need to start my healing journey. Where can they find you and reach out to you to work with you?
Sure. So, probably the first place for more information is my website, which is www.healedhero.com. And I'm on pretty much all social media. I'm going to be more active on them, I promise. So, Adaku Mbagwu. So, if you put that in, there's surprisingly only a few online. So, you should be able to find me on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all the things.
And for anybody who may not have written that down fast enough, we'll make all of that available in the show notes so you can just click in and find Adaku. And this conversation is very important. People are looking for ways to heal. You touched on something that in the Black community in general, mental health is not something that is generally discussed. We rather pray or talk to a pastor or, read a Bible. God did not put intellect in people's heads to deal with certain things because he didn't want you to use the services. So go to counseling outside of the church. Just a suggestion. You don't have to take me up on it. I mean, try it out. Might surprise you. Try counseling outside of the church. However, your beliefs are your beliefs. We're not here to deter you from your beliefs, but sometimes you need a little more. And please, please check on your strong family members. Check on your strong friends.
Yes, please.
That badge of strength is not the flex you think it is. Just saying. Check on your strong ones. Thank you everybody for listening. And Adaku, again, super grateful for you making time to be here. And thank you for the conversation. And everybody, let us know what you think. Do you know somebody in your life struggling? Let us know.
Yeah, I would love to hear everyone's story too. So if you feel like just sending me a message to share with me your
Definitely.
side or whatever you got, I'd love that. But thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Whenever I can, if something moves me emotionally to express my emotion, I'm grateful for it because I'm working the muscle. I just want to cry all day. So I need to get it all out. So I appreciate you holding the space for honest conversation.
Thank you for being transparent and having the honest conversation. Is not easy. Tripping and letting yourself bare is not easy. However, it heals. So I thank you for the strength because it takes a lot of strength to do that. Thank you for sharing your story and being so open and vulnerable. It is very commendable. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Unshelling Medicine Podcast. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Altruistic Scribe on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We share additional tips, updates, and health-related content that you won't want to miss. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes? Reach out to us at altruisticscribeco.com. We're always eager to hear from our listeners and tackle the health topics that matter most to you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.